The music with the Sony Walkman.
The Sony Walkman.
Everything I need's in my new Trapper portfolio.
Trapper?
Hey there, nostalgia lovers. Welcome back to Nostalgia Area. Today, we're diving deep into the decade of decadence to explore the expensive items from the 80s that only the rich kids had. While some of us were rocking hand-me-downs and cassette tapes that sounded like a robot drowning in static, the rich kids were out there flaunting some seriously pricey toys and gadgets. So, grab your designer shades and get ready to reminisce about the luxury items that defined the era. Let's get started. First up, the iconic Sony Walkman. The gadget that let rich kids walk around with a personal soundtrack playing in their heads like they were the main character in a John Hughes movie. Introduced in 1979, the Walkman made music portable, and for a cool $150, which is like $1 million in kid money, you could strut down the street pretending to ignore everyone with a pair of orange foam headphones. Next, we have the Apple Macintosh, the computer that made everyone say, "Whoa, you can do that now?" Released in 1984, the Mac was sleek, compact, and had that friendly graphical interface. But at over $2,500, it was less affordable tech and more, here's my entire college fund. Rich kids got to flex their Mac skills while the rest of us were stuck playing Oregon Trail on a school computer that probably doubled as a space heater. Swatch watches were the epitome of 80s fashion. Bold, bright, and designed to let everyone know you had money to burn. Some rich kids wore them like bracelets, stacking 3 or 4 on each arm because, apparently, time is money, and they had plenty of both. The rest of us, we had one sad off-brand digital watch that beeped every hour, whether we wanted it to or not. The Commodore 64 was a ticket to the digital frontier, offering games and educational software that were the height of 80s tech. If you were rich, you got to play endless hours of pixelated adventure games and learn basic programming. If you weren't rich, well, you got to stare at the blank TV screen and pretend you were just as cool as the kid down the street with the fancy joystick. Calvin Klein, Ralph Lauren, Guess, the holy trinity of 80s designer fashion. If you were rocking these brands, you might as well have been wearing a sign that said, "My parents bought this with their yacht money." Rich kids strutted down the hall in logo-emblazoned sweatshirts and leather jackets, while the rest of us tried to convince people that our off-brand jeans were just as cool. Spoiler, they weren't. If you owned a BMX bike in the 80s, you were basically the Evel Knievel of the neighborhood. Brands like Mongoose and Diamondback made bikes that could practically defy gravity, or at least look cool while crashing into the curb. Rich kids zipped around doing tricks and stunts, while the rest of us had rusty, hand-me-down bikes that made more noise than a Transformers battle scene. Ah, the NES, the holy grail of gaming consoles. If you had one of these, you were basically a demigod among kids. You could host sleepovers with endless rounds of Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt. Meanwhile, the rest of us were playing, guess which channel gets the least static, because our TV barely worked. Leather bomber jackets were the ultimate in 80s cool, unless you were sweating bullets in one because it was August and you refused to take it off. Rich kids rocked these jackets like they were Maverick from Top Gun, while the rest of us wore windbreakers and pretended they were just as cool. Big, loud, and heavy enough to double as a workout, high-end boomboxes were the life of the party, if you could afford one. Brands like Sony, Panasonic, and JVC produced boomboxes with advanced features like dual cassette decks, graphic equalizers, and powerful speakers. Rich kids paraded around the block, blasting the latest mixtape, while the rest of us were still pressing record on our tape decks, hoping the DJ wouldn't talk over the intro of our favorite song. Trapper Keepers were the ultimate school supply for 80s kids. Known for their colorful designs and practical features. While they were relatively affordable, the more elaborate and collectible designs were a luxury that only some could afford. Rich kids had the fanciest designs, while the rest of us made do with plain folders and our sad, untrapped papers. Imagine being able to record your favorite TV shows and watch them whenever you wanted. Yeah, rich kids didn't have to imagine it. They were living it. However, VCRs were expensive when they first hit the market. Rich kids who had a VCR at home could host movie nights and watch their favorite films whenever they wanted, while the rest of us were still trying to get the rabbit ears on the TV to work. High-end stereo systems were a must-have for music lovers in the 80s. Brands like Bose, Technics, and Pioneer produced premium stereo systems with impressive sound quality and advanced features. Rich kids with these top-of-the-line systems could enjoy their favorite music in crystal-clear sound, hosting dance parties and impressing their friends with their extensive music collections. For many, these high-end stereo systems were a distant dream. Electric typewriters were a symbol of modernity and efficiency in the 80s, making typing tasks faster and easier. Brands like IBM and Smith Corona produced high-quality electric typewriters that came with a premium price tag. Rich kids who had access to these typewriters could complete their school assignments with ease, typing up essays and reports in record time. The sight of an electric typewriter in a home office was a sign of wealth and sophistication. Before Spotify, before MP3s, before even those scratched-up mixed CDs, there were CD players. However, CD players were expensive when they first hit the market, making them a luxury item for many families. Rich kids got to listen to crystal-clear music on these high-tech gadgets, while the rest of us were still untangling cassette tapes with a pencil. Designer sneakers became a major fashion statement in the 80s, with brands like Nike, Adidas, and Reebok leading the charge. Limited edition and signature models such as the Nike Air Jordans came with hefty price tags and were highly coveted. Rich kids who owned these exclusive sneakers were the envy of their peers, effortlessly combining style and athleticism. The sight of a rich kid sporting the latest designer kicks was a common scene in the 80s. Remote-controlled, RC cars were a thrilling toy for kids in the 80s, offering endless hours of racing fun. High-end RC cars produced by brands like Tamiya and Kyosho came with advanced features and high price tags. Rich kids who owned these premium RC cars could zoom around the neighborhood, showing off their impressive speed and handling. The rest of us could only watch in awe as these high-performance cars raced by. Cabbage Patch Kids were the must-have dolls of the 80s, known for their unique, chubby-faced appearance and adoption certificates. While they were widely popular, the limited edition and collectible models were expensive and highly sought after. Rich kids who owned multiple Cabbage Patch Kids were the envy of their friends, proudly displaying their growing collection. The frenzy surrounding these dolls made them a major status symbol in the 80s. High-end cameras, such as those produced by Canon, Nikon, and Minolta, were a luxury item for photography enthusiasts in the 80s. If you were really living large in the 80s, you had a camera with actual zoom and focus capabilities, the kind that took pictures that didn't look like blurry UFO sightings. Rich kids got to document every moment in crisp detail, while the rest of us had disposable cameras that might or might not develop the photos we took. Finally, the Rubik's Cube, a puzzle that was equal parts frustrating and addictive. Rich kids didn't just have the standard cube. They had fancy versions with metallic finishes and timers to show off how fast they could solve it. The rest of us were still trying to get one side to match while occasionally considering just peeling the stickers off. And there you have it, a look back at the pricey toys, gadgets, and status symbols that only the rich kids had in the 80s. Let us know in the comments below which ones you remember, which ones you envied, and which ones you still kind of want today. Until next time, keep it rad and keep it nostalgic.